I'm finally going to do my top 5 best and worst things about Star Wars Episode VIII, The Last Jedi video that I promised to you. I'm sorry it took so long. I have been taking many depression naps and sulking in existential dread, so maybe. But I'm back. Working on it. So I'm just going to alternate between my top 5 best and top 5 worst. We'll start with the good and end with the bad. Number 1, the first good thing about this movie, I liked that we get to see Luke and Rey's first meeting, and we start off with that moment where she hands him the lightsaber, and you think it's going to be this big, dramatic sort of moment. No, he just pitches it over his shoulder and walks the fuck away. That was a great moment, and I think set the tone for Luke's general sass and curmudgeoniness throughout the rest of the film. And sometimes I found that a little bit grating, but other times I thought it was kind of funny and enjoyable, and it provided a good comic relief foil to play against Rey's youthful optimism. I also really enjoy when Rey asks him to come and save the Resistance, and he's just like, what do you expect me to do? Show up with a laser sword and fight an entire army? What's wrong with you? Because that is kind of ridiculous. You think one guy is going to be the thing that makes the difference. It's just going to be one guy who's just going to fight them all off just magically. The Force, I guess. So that was kind of fun, and I liked that general tone that we get from him throughout the movie. Number 1 bad thing. This scene started out as something that I thought would be one of my favorite things about the movie, and that was Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia floating in space, slowly crystallizing as moonlight shined on her face. And I thought, oh, they're doing that thing to reference that Carrie Fisher quote about being drowned in moonlight, strangled by her own bra. That's great. And then the camera panned on her face, and I had a sinking feeling. And her eyes snapped open, and she force floats down to the ship and knocks on the door and is let in, and then he's in a coma for the rest of the movie, for the most part, until she wakes up and shoots Poe, which was one of the few good things, but is not actually on my list, but I should have added it. The second good thing that I enjoyed was the Kylo Ren Rey Force talks. There were some weak moments, like that ridiculous shirtless Adam Driver scene. I don't know why I can't take him seriously. I know he's a grown-ass man, but something about where his neck connects to his shoulders gives me the impression that he's like 14. And that combined with the whiny Kylo Ren character, I found it more endearing than any kind of arousing. And I'm not sure what the point of that was, but I liked the dynamic between the two of them, and I think the two actors actually did a very good job in that performance, and they did seem to have a real enough connection that it did carry those scenes. Of course, there are lots of things in this movie that make me ask a lot of questions, but I did think that this actually ended up playing very strongly, and I think that it was an asset to the movie overall. One of the weaker things was something that I didn't actually originally rage about, but then my boyfriend pointed it out and I couldn't unnotice it, and that was the scene between Kylo Ren and Luke. And it was a weak scene. At first I thought it was funny. He tries to blast the living shit out of Luke, and then Luke just dusts himself off, and then they fight each other, kind of, and then he strikes through him, and it turns out Luke's not really there, and then Luke dies anyway, I guess. So it kind of ruins the ha-ha Force projection thing. I don't know if this is a canon thing people can do, by the way. I'm not a giant Star Wars fan. I'm not a huge Star Wars nerd. I'm a very casual Star Wars fan, so this just seemed like a weird, random thing to me. And the thing is, they built up this emotional tension between Kylo Ren and Luke throughout the movie. They made it seem like it was going to be this huge showdown between the two of them because Luke did fail him. Luke did betray him at a time when he was vulnerable. He stood over a teenage boy's bed holding a lightsaber, thinking about killing him, and, of course the kid lost all faith in his mentor when that happened and immediately gave in to his darker impulses. that was an understandable character motivation for Kylo, in spite of some more weird, weak aspects of this movie. I think that they could have done so much more with this scene by adding more dialogue. And when you contrast it to showdowns later on, or earlier on in the series, like between Vader and Obi-Wan, it just pales in comparison because it doesn't feel like the emotional stakes are there, even though they've been built up. They can be justified. They could be there, but they're not. And instead we get Luke being just sassy and funny, and we just completely lose all emotional impact from that scene. Number 3, the movie was visually stunning. It was really pretty. I ended up seeing it in 3D, which I think actually made it less visually stunning because there were some weird things that happened in the background and it made all the CG look much more fake. But overall, I thought it was a beautiful movie, and I would definitely watch it again purely for the aesthetics, to be honest. The third thing I hated about this movie was that Laura Dern's sacrifice as Admiral Holdo was completely fucking pointless by the time she got around to doing it. There were plenty of opportunities for her to do that would have been much more effectual at, preventing basically the entire fleet from being destroyed. She could have done it after the first few were blown up, but she waited until they were down to, the dregs, and then she goes, and somehow it just makes her sacrifice a lot less meaningful and impactful, because you're just like, that sure took you a while to come up with that plan, didn't it, there? Seemed like a pretty obvious thing to do when you think about it. Would have maybe been a good thing to do earlier, since this was already a suicide mission anyway. But okay, whatever. The fourth thing I liked about this movie, I liked Rose and Finn's friendship and their general connection, and I thought that Rose was a really fun new character, and I liked that she had a lot to do and that she was clever and fun, and she was a character with also understandable motivations, having just lost her sister. The number 4 thing that I did not like about this movie was the love triangle they created by not just having Rose and Finn have a vibrant and entertaining friendship, but instead making them have romantic tension now, because men and women can never just be friends. It always has to be romantic, and we can't ever have two characters just be friends. No, there has to be a love triangle, because this movie needs another subplot. This is already such a bloated movie, but no, it needs another subplot. But the 5th thing that I liked about this movie was Rey's parentage. That we find out that Rey doesn't come from anywhere special, that her parents are not important. I really, really hope that no one was lying to her when they said this. I hope it's the truth, because I think that makes for a much more interesting narrative, and also removes some of that need to suspend the disbelief that everyone important in the universe is somehow related very closely. It would be nice if she's just someone completely random who rose to her power through the need for balance in the universe and randomness rather than anything else. I love that idea. There's something really poetic about that, and there's something that resonates with the core of the movie about that, and I like that idea, and I really hope that they don't change it and make her be a secret Skywalker or a secret Kenobi or a secret anything else. I just hope they don't change it. Number 5, Poe is the worst. I hate him. I hate Poe. I was really satisfied when Leia shot him. He completely deserved it. He's just a childish mixture of Han Solo and Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager, where he thinks he's always right, and he's this cocky flyboy who has no idea what he's doing, and he thinks he can just luck into situations. If he hadn't undermined Admiral Holdo's plan, if he hadn't tried to undermine her command, they wouldn't have needed to have her drive the ship through Snoke's ship at light speed, because Snoke's ship would have kept on going, and they would have been safely hiding on Crate down below, because the only reason they knew to look for them was because of the turncoat code breaker that they picked up on the casino planet. And by the way, the casino was so stupid. I hated that entire scene. You know what it reminded me of? that scene, just as a bonus thing I hated, that scene reminded me of the Goblin Town scene from the first Hobbit movie. And that's not a compliment, because I hated that scene too. Everything about that scene felt gratuitous and cheesy and over-stylized and over-computerized and over-glamorized, and it was just such a this year kind of thing to do, where it's the epitome of just a pointless scene in a bad reboot. I found it entirely frustrating, and I think that was probably my least favorite scene in the entire movie. I thought that the reason that they needed the guy was so pointless, and the mechanism for having them betray them was pointless too. All in all, that entire plot line, I felt like it was so unnecessary. And again, this movie was so bloated. They could have done a lot more efficiently if they had cut that out, or if they had at least reduced it. The parking ticket thing is just so silly. It's like, at first I chuckled at it, but then I realized, oh no, this is going to be like an actual plot point. Okay. I didn't like it. So that is all I have for you on this for now. I will have a lot more to say about it in the next video with my friends Greg and Kevin. I can't wait to talk about this movie a little more in depth, because I still have so many things I didn't get to talk about in this video, like how I think that there's no reason at all, for Supreme Leader Snoke to be computer animated. Like, none of the special effects on his face or body justify him being computer animated, especially in the in-person scenes. I don't know what that was, but okay. Anyway, I digress. I'm sorry. There were things to like about this movie. Remember, I wasn't 100% negative, but there were definitely problems with this film. And we'll talk about it more in my next video. Agree, disagree, let me know down in the comment section below. But if you like my videos, subscribe. If you don't, I'm sure that you will tell me. I'll see you next time. Wiedersehen.